From the time my sister Amie was in first grade, she suffered from sleep paralysis, a condition unnervingly advanced for her tender age. Her nights were plagued by frightfully realistic nightmares, a mysterious affliction that none of us could fathom. It reached a point where she would endure sleepless nights only to doze off in the bright safety of our living room after a blur of a day at school. Our worry for Amie grew with each passing night. It was a parent's worst nightmare to see their child consumed by a sickness so enigmatic and so relentless. The doctor's advice was always the same: a nightlight, a teddy bear, something to comfort her. But Amie was 7, not a toddler. She understood too well that her dreams always began and ended in the same haunting manner, and that such childish comforts did little to alleviate the terror. She described her tormentor consistently: a woman with unnaturally long, straggly hair, an unnervingly wide smile and overly large eyes, whispering threats of stealing Amie's body. My sister would wake herself with her own screams, certain that one night the woman would triumph. We dismissed these episodes as vivid, unsettling dreams. One night, after a particularly harrowing episode of sleep paralysis, Amie crept into my room. In the pitch darkness, her presence was startling, her wide-awake stare at such an odd hour unsettling. "I'm tired of waking Mum and Dad," she whispered. "Tony, will you sleep in my room with me?" As a teenager, I hesitated, wondering if it was odd, but my protective instincts as her older brother prevailed. "Of course, Amie," I assured her. In her room, she clung to the idea that surrounding herself with comforting objects would ward off her nightmares. For a few nights, I slept beside her, enduring her restless tossing until it became too much. I then settled into a routine, reading her stories until she fell asleep, then slipping out of her bed to sleep on the floor. My parents would find us in the mornings, touched by the scene, oblivious to the aches in my back each morning. One night, Amie awoke in a frenzy, her eyes wide, yet clearly still trapped in a nightmare. As I approached to calm her, she flailed wildly, as if driven by some unseen force, screaming, "Don't, don't!" Ignoring the taboo of waking a sleep paralysis victim, I jolted her awake. She burst into tears, pushing me away with a startling, almost supernatural strength. Then, as suddenly as it began, she snapped back to reality. "I don't know what happened," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. Please, don't leave me alone." Guilt-ridden and concerned, I promised to stay by her side. The next night, the pattern repeated with an added intensity. Her screams were more terrified, her movements more violent. As her blanket flew off and covered me on the floor, I struggled to my feet, only to be knocked down again by her frenzied actions. Each night, the encounters grew more intense, more chilling. By the third night, a sense of dread had taken hold of me. Her nocturnal outbursts felt less like sleep paralysis and more like she was battling some malevolent entity. Her eyes would snap open, filled with terror, as she swatted at unseen assailants. My attempts to help only seemed to escalate the situation. Then, one night, as I approached her bed, she locked eyes with me, her grip tightening on my shirt. "I'm awake," she uttered in a chilling tone, pushing me to the ground with alarming force. In a frantic escape, she grabbed my hand, leading us out of the room and slamming the door behind us. Our parents, awoken by the commotion, rushed into the hallway. Amie was trembling, tears streaming down her face. "The lady in my dreams. She tried to take you," she gasped, her voice barely a whisper. "She was reaching for your mouth." I felt a sudden, nauseating sensation in my mouth. Reaching inside, I extracted a fingernail, a horrifying realization dawning on me. Amie's warnings, her desperate attempts to keep me away, they were not just symptoms of her nightmares. She had been protecting me from whatever sinister presence had invaded her room, a presence that now left a physical, terrifying mark. From that night on, the unspoken understanding between us changed everything. Our nightly routine was abandoned, replaced by a shared vigilance. We never spoke of it openly, but the fear and the unsolved mystery of those nights lingered, a silent, haunting presence in our once peaceful home.